Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Amory Jane.
About a year ago, I was finishing my 6th and final egg donation. Now, for anybody who doesn't know about egg donations, it's nothing like sperm donations. If only I could just whack off into a cup and hand it to the nurse and say, here's my genetic material. But no, it doesn't work that way. You have to take a lot of shots, injections in the stomach, in the thighs, a really, really huge one right in the butt cheeks about 36 hours before surgery. Not a really pleasant experience. Takes months of your time. You have to be celibate during the egg donation procedure because you're super fertile. And you've signed a contract that now somebody else owns those eggs of yours. So if you were to get pregnant, you would be breaking the contract. So there's pretty much nothing fun about it at all. But that's not why you do it. You don't do it because it's fun. You do it because you want to help people. It's a selfless act. But by the time my 6th donation rolled around, I was like, fuck this. My body was not feeling well. I was super bloated. I looked pregnant, honestly, and people would stand up for me on the bus and let me sit down, which was kind of nice. But it was really awkward when I'd go to New Seasons and buy food, and then the checkout person was like, oh yeah, I had those cravings when I was pregnant too. And I'm like, I'm not pregnant. Or they'd be like, when are you expecting? And I'm like, in about a week and a half, and the doctor said 25 to 30, and they're like, what? But yeah, the 6th egg donation was extra hard on my body. And after the surgery, I actually had a lot of complications. So I had to go to the hospital. I had to have an emergency surgery because there were fluids leaking into my abdomen, and it was pushing up on my lungs. So they're like, let's get you into surgery. You gotta stay in the hospital. Things weren't looking up for me. And I was cranky because I hadn't had sex in 2 months. So I decided in the hospital that night when I was playing Angry Birds on my iPad, I'm like, you know what? When I'm feeling better, I'm going to do something so selfish. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to have an adventure, and it's going to be for me. And it's going to be to make me feel good, and it's going to be to make me feel sexy, and it's not going to be for anyone else because I've given my body and myself over to other people for 3 years. So as soon as I feel better, it's all about me. So a few weeks go by, it's mid-December, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm going to put up some Christmas decorations. I have the energy for it. So I'm rummaging through some boxes. I find some garland. I find some ornaments. I'm hanging things up. And I come to a box, and I see a mistletoe. And I'm like, mistletoe? Mistletoe reminds me of kissing. This reminds me, I need to still challenge myself to do something. I need an adventure. So I look at that mistletoe, and I think, mistletoe challenge. I am going to kiss 5 people before 2012. So I've got until midnight, New Year's Eve, to kiss 5 people. But they can't just be normal kisses. It can't just be like, mwah. No, like making out. And it can't be anyone, because I've got people who will kiss me. I've got partners, I've got friends, I've made out with half of Portland. So this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be a challenge to find new people to make out with. So that's the plan. 5 brand new people making out before New Year's Eve. It's mid-December. This sounds reasonable. Of course, I'm working like 4 days out of every week. And I'm also rehearsing for a New Year's Eve show that's coming up at the Doug Fir. I'm a backup singer, and I've got to learn all these harmonies. So I'm like, I don't have a whole lot of time, but I got this. I'm a make-out queen. So I get online. I start looking on OkCupid, and I have a message from a nice fella in my inbox. And he looks kind of like Frodo Baggins. Well, okay, he looks like Elijah Wood. He's not a hobbit. He's not like a halfling. He doesn't have hairy feet to my knowledge. He looks like Elijah Wood. And I'm like, oh, I'm a nerd. So I have a crush on Elijah Wood, of course, like all nerds do. So he asks me out. I say, yeah, let's do it. Let's go out tomorrow night. So we actually meet up the street here. We have a drink. Things are going really well. We're having great conversation. And he asks if I want to get dinner after the drink. So I'm like, sure. we're walking outside from drinks to dinner, and he puts his arm around my shoulder because I'm kind of chilly. And he's trying to warm me up, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's a gentleman. He's getting made out with tonight. So we get to the restaurant, and I tell him about the Mistletoe challenge. I tell him I need to make out with 5 new people. And he's like, have you done it yet? Have you made out with anybody? And I said, no, I haven't. And he's like, I would be honored to be the first person you made out with. And I'm like, all right, Elijah Wood, let's do it. So we start making out, and the server's standing there like, this is awkward. I was trying to take your order. But I get my first kiss, and I'm riding high. I'm feeling really, really great about this. And so I go, when I get home, back onto OkCupid, and I'm like, let's find number 2, lucky number 2. Having a hard time finding the right person. Most people, I'm like, nah, we're not a good match. It's like a 60% match score on OkCupid. Not enough. I'm waiting for the 90% plus. People who I'd mark as a 4-star and above. I don't know if you've ever been on OkCupid. They have this whole rating system. And then I see in the sidebar this gorgeous hunk, thick, curly black hair. He looks just like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. Yeah. Whew. He even has a coat with like a big furry collar. He's standing in the snow in his profile picture, and there's a dire wolf next to him. There's no dire wolf. But he's standing in the snow, and there's a big furry collar, and I'm just like, you look just like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. You probably hear that all the time. You're so hot. Do you want to go out? And he's like, okay, I just got to Portland yesterday. I'm from Minneapolis visiting my family, but yeah, once things settle down, let's go out. And I'm like, I can't wait. Okay, let's go. So we go 2 days later for a drink at the Sapphire Hotel. Now, I get there early because this is what I like to do on dates. I like to get there early, have a drink, and, unwind, not feel nervous. I also like to look at the door so I can see them walking in. This way, if it's like a 10-year-old profile picture and they're lying to me, or they're just like putting up a picture of their hot cousin, I can run away really quick. So I see him walk in, and no, he looks just like his picture. He's gorgeous. But of course, I got there early, so I had a drink, feeling a little buzzed. And I'm extra excited to see him. I'm just like, hi, you look just like you did in your picture. And he's like, yeah, you look kind of like you did in your picture. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what that means. And so I'm feeling kind of self-conscious. Like, does that mean I look better? Does it mean I look worse? No, I've got to get out of my head if I'm going to make this second kiss happen. So we're talking. Things are going well once he gets a drink in him. He's a little bit shy, as I imagine the real Jon Snow would be. And by the real, I mean the character in a fictional book. But his lips are so pouty, and I'm just like, delicious. So I'm thinking, let's keep this date going. I don't want it to end. Let's do something adventurous, I tell him. Like, let's go to a strip club. That's what you do on a first date for adventure. And he's like, okay, I haven't been to a strip club before. And I'm like, who's never been to a strip club? You grew up in Portland, you should be going to those since you're 6. It's not legal, but somehow you should be doing that. So I say, let's go to Casa Diablo, because when I go there, I get a lot of attention. Sometimes they bring me up on stage, and I end up topless. And I'm like, well, I didn't know they were allowed to do that, but apparently they are. So I think this is going to be enticing. Let's go to Casa Diablo. We go there, but it's not how I remember it. The dancers are already naked when they're up on stage. There's no, strip tease happening. So we're just like, well, that's anticlimactic. So we just end up just talking to each other the whole night. Very, very flirtatious. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell him about the Mistletoe challenge, because I almost felt like that was cheating with the first guy, with Elijah Wood. So I was like, Jon Snow, kind of getting bored with these strippers. Do you want to go out to your car? And he's like, okay. So we go out to his car, and I give him this look like, I want to make you... I can't even get the words out. I'm looking at him, and he's freaked out, dude, why are you looking at me like that? And I basically tell him, I need to make out with you. It's really important that I do this. And he's like, okay, that's fine. It's not a big deal in his head, but in my mind, this is my challenge. I have to do it. But we make out. And it's awesome. I have my hands in his curly hair and his pouty lips in my lips. And I think, if I didn't have to work in the morning, I would take him home, and winter would not be the only thing that was coming. Thank you, Game of Thrones fans. Alas, I go home, but I have my second kiss, and I'm just feeling excited, like I'm unstoppable. Can make out with anyone. But I have like the next 4 days in a row that I'm working, and I have rehearsals after work every day, so there's just no time to see anyone. But the weekend comes up. Closer and closer we get to New Year's Eve, and I still haven't had a third kiss. But I get invited to one of my friend's birthday parties. She's having a birthday, it's going to be at her apartment, and then we're going to go out afterwards and sing karaoke. So I get to her house and walk in the door. She's dressed like I've never seen her dress before. She's wearing like this shiny tube dress. It's teal. It's like right there, like right below crotch level. And she's wearing thigh-high leather boots. And I'm just like, oh, goodness. I don't know if she's super straight or what, but I really am going to flirt with her tonight. So I'm being very flirtatious with her. I'm dressed like a 1950s secretary that night for some reason, wearing like a pencil dress. It's very curve-hugging. And she makes a comment like, "You look like a 1950s secretary. It makes me want to take you home and have marital sex with you." And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds hot because you said you wanted to have sex with me. And then everybody sings happy birthday, and we're all laughing and having a good time. And then all of a sudden, bloop, a piece of cake drops off of somebody's plate, and it lands right on her big thigh-high boot. And I'm like, oh no, we should clean that up. But I don't go to the kitchen and get a rag. I get down on my hands and knees, and I lick the cake off her boot. And I lick my tongue all the way up her boot until the top of her thigh. And everybody in the room is staring at me. And it's super hot. And then she's like, I'm okay. I think we should go to karaoke now. Whew, so we're both feeling some sexual tension. We get to karaoke, we're dancing, we're singing. And then I get a text from Jon Snow. Hey, I'm downtown. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm downtown. Do you want to come to my friend's karaoke party? I shouldn't have asked him that. He's going to cramp my style. How am I going to get my third kiss if he's there? But I have such a crush on this guy. So I invite him. And when he gets there, I can tell that my friend, whose birthday it is that night, finds him very attractive. And I'm like, I'm going to hatch a plan. So someone puts in the song Pony by Genuine. Thank you, karaoke gods, for looking out for me. So I grab Jon Snow, and I grab my friend, and we start grind dancing on the dance floor, the three of us. And while we're dancing, I'm like, hey, I'm going to make out with you, Jon Snow. So I'm making out with Jon Snow. And then my friend is like, oh, I want to be made out with, which is what I planned. So I look at her, and I'm like, and then I make out with her. Yes, third kiss. And then I say, now it's your turn. And the two of them make out. And I'm like, tomorrow we should all go on a triple date. Because that sounds like a fun thing. So the next day, the three of us go on a triple date, which, I'm sabotaging myself here. My plan is 5 new people, but instead I just want to be with the two of them, really. We go on a triple date, and this is their first triple date. They're both a lot more like straight-oriented, monogamous people. They've pretty much done things the traditional way. And I'm like, no, let's do things the non-traditional way because it's more fun. So we share a giant bowl of liquor at the Gold Dust Meridian, 3 straws. And then my friend and I go in the bathroom, and I'm like, all right, let's think of code words. If you're not feeling it, the code word is cucumber because it's cool. It's like too cold. Makes sense. Now, if it's good, it's zucchini, because it's kind of like a cucumber. So, cucumber, zucchini. And if you don't know, just tug on my hand, which, she could have just done that in the first place. We go out dancing after our fishbowl of liquor, and we're digging on each other. And she's like, hey, zucchini. And I'm like, you want something to eat? And she's like, zucchini. Oh, yeah, the fishbowl got to my head. I forgot that was a thing. So I'm like, all right, Jon Snow, we're taking you home. He's like, both of you? And I'm like, come on, you knew that was something that could happen. He's like, I thought it would only happen in my wildest dreams. So me, my friend, Jon Snow, we go back to her apartment. Her roommates are gone, which is perfect. And we have the world's best threesome. Now, I know that's like, come on, it's not the world's best threesome. But threesomes can be really awkward. It's like everyone's fumbling, especially with two people who have never had a threesome. But they are just porn stars like me. Yeah. They're experts. Like, I don't know how they're so good at this. They have the perfect amount of like having a sense of humor about it and paying enough attention to everyone. And everything is just really, really amazing. And I'm laying there post-orgasm thinking, it doesn't matter if I get those last two kisses. I have succeeded in having a fun, selfish, sexy adventure. And I feel more alive than I've ever felt. But the next morning, I get a message from a friend saying, hey, my brother's in town. You should make out with him. And then I get my other friends who have been reading my blog saying, hey, I'll make out with you. And all of a sudden, everyone's volunteering to make out with me. And I'm like, okay, maybe I won't end this challenge. There are 3 days left until New Year's Eve, and I still need 2 kisses. And every single day I work or have rehearsal, so I need all the help I can get from these friends, from these volunteers. But it doesn't match up schedule-wise. I can't find time to meet with anybody without being completely sleep deprived. And at the same time, I'm losing my voice. I've got like laryngitis from singing outside as an elf all season. And so things are just not looking good for me. New Year's Eve, I'm at work. I have to change out of my regular work clothes and into my backup singer outfit at the Doug Fir. There's not even a small amount of time in between where I can eat. So there's definitely no time for me to kiss anyone. But I think there's an intermission. Maybe I can kiss people at intermission. Just go out into the audience and grab someone's face, right? But I believe in consent, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm at the show, and I'm singing back up the first half of the show, and things are going really, really well. I'm totally involved in the show until it's intermission. And then I'm like, looking out in the audience, trying to find someone, anyone. There's so many hot people. And then my friends wave me down, and they're like, hey, over here, over here. And I'm like, yeah, do you have someone for me to make out with? And this really sweet and innocent girl who's never made out with a girl in her life, she's like, I want to do it. I want to be the fourth. I want you to write about me in your blog. And I'm like, okay. So we totally make out. And then they're like, singers get up on stage. I'm going to be up on stage until midnight. It's okay. It's okay if I don't get my 5th kiss, right? But I really want it. What am I going to do? Singing the songs. Every song, we're getting closer to midnight. Everyone else in the band is looking at the clock like, that means we have 2 songs left. But I'm looking at it like, that means I only have 10 minutes until I can miss my goal of kissing someone. The final song is on. I don't even remember what it was. Probably a Prince song, maybe Michael Jackson. It doesn't matter because I'm not thinking about it. I'm just like in the background, like I don't really care what I'm singing. I'm just doing this and thinking, who am I going to make out with? And then they're like, everyone get your drinks ready. We're going to have the countdown. And I'm like, no. And then I look over and the keyboard player, who's a total hottie, is searching around for a drink. He's like, oh no, I left my beer backstage. Aha, this is my opportunity. So I run backstage, and I can't find his beer, but I grab a bottle of champagne, and I'm running with it. And fortunately, it's a really cheap bottle where you just untwist it, like not real champagne where it has a cork. And I get up there, and they're like, 10, 9, 8. And I'm like, I have a drink for you. 7, 6, thank you. You have to do something for me on one condition for you to get this drink. What? 4, 3, you have to kiss me. 2, 1. And then I look at him and he's like, just shakes his head. So I go in for the kiss. And I get my 5th and final kiss. And then he gets a drink of champagne and says, thank you. No one ever kisses me on New Year's because I'm up on stage performing. And I said, no, thank you. because in that moment, kissing him, meeting that goal, I felt so powerful, so bold, sexy as hell. I felt alive, and more than anything, I felt ready to take on a new year. Thank you.